Because it can be a little bit hard to remember what are all the attributes that you could possibly add in CSS. For example, like, can I add a background color? Is there alignment for my text? Is there font size? Like all those things. You can certainly use the W3 School to help you, but you can also get a list of available attributes in the CSS Designer panel. So I am in this standard mode. If you want to make sure that your Dreamweaver looks like mine, just make sure up here it does say standard. And you may have your panels docked on top of each other. It may look a little bit different, but look for the tab for CSS Designer. And the way this works is if you've already been working on your page, down here where it says selectors, now you may need to open this panel up, maybe it's shrunk, but you should see a list of all of the CSS rules that you've already written. So that's a selector, like the HTML that you are already targeting. If you're working from a page that doesn't have any CSS on it yet, there's going to be nothing listed under the selectors. So this is my starter page for Intro to CSS where it doesn't have any markup yet. So I will just, for example, go into my body and I'll put in a paragraph tag, okay? And then I'll go up to my CSS or into my head tag and I'll put my style type equals text slash CSS, put my closing bracket, close that out, put my closing style tag. All this just to show you what's going to happen. So now I have a paragraph rule, and I'm even just going to leave it empty. And now when I click over to my selectors, now I have the option of working with my paragraph tool, okay? So the first thing is you look in your selectors, but if you haven't written anything in your CSS, nothing's going to show up. So I'm going to jump back over to this page where I already had a ton of CSS, so I have all these selectors. And I'm going to choose, I'll just choose the paragraph. So this can be, I think, really helpful for working with text. So I have the paragraph selected, and now I'm going to go over to my properties panel and make sure that show set is not checked. I want to uncheck that. And then up here at the top, you have some little icons that will basically just shift the view of what you have here available. So if I wanted to work with text or borders or background, the first one is layout, then I could click on that. And what I want right now is to work on text, so I'm going to click on text. And here it gives me a whole bunch of properties that I can add to my CSS rule for my paragraph. So currently my paragraph has a width of 450 and a margin top of 0. Those are the only attributes I've added to that CSS rule for my paragraph. But so here I could choose the color. I'm just going to add a bunch of stuff just so we can see how this works. I chose the color, yep. I could choose the font family. I get that same drop-down list that I would get if I was doing this in my code. I could choose the font style. I want it to be normal. If I wanted a variant or a font weight, I could choose these numbers here, or I could do it, I'll just choose, just for the sake of example, I'll do bolder, and you could choose, it's looking pretty horrible, but your font size, so on and so forth. And then you have like alignment, you have the text decoration, you have text indent, text shadow, which you really don't want to use, only if it's like for a heading, like a single word, and you want it to be very small. And you can just scroll down and you can see the other things all related to text. Yeah, if what kind of alignment you'd want to have and so on and so forth. Okay, so just you can feel free to sort of play and experiment with this, and then you might decide that you want to get rid of the things. But just if you want to, it's a fast way to be able to see like what do all of these things do. And now when I look over here in my code for my paragraph, I can see all the stuff that I added through the designer panel shows up here. So I'll just do one more, like let's go to border. And let's say I wanted to add a border, and I'm going to make it a thick border, and I'm going to make it a dotted border. Yeah, you can see what's going on here, pretty ugly. And then I'm going to pick a color. All right, so it just added this border around anything that had the P tag around it. All right, if I wanted to adjust the border radius, So I could make it like curved. I could adjust that radius. And oftentimes things like this won't show up in Dreamweaver in the design view. You need to switch to the live view. Or if it's not showing up in the live view, you go over and view it in a browser page. So sometimes some of these things, they don't always show up in Dreamweaver. So just make sure you're checking all the time in the browser. Remember, that's just F12, or you go down to the bottom of your preview. Okay, so that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions.